this is all to come back to people asking me how did it like happen. People said, like, did you just, like, at midnight, does the number in your bank account just change, or do you get an alert or whatever? When the money came in, I didn't know my username to log in to the account.
Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this?
It's another edition of KFC Radio on the Barstool Sports Network. Today, flying solo. Feidelberg's out, and this was something I was planning on doing anyway, so I figured perfect timing with John being out. I figured it was a good time to do a solo episode anyway and kind of catch people up on everything that's gone on, because obviously major life changes. So if you are an OG fan, I'm sure you'll probably be interested in some of this inside Barstool stuff. If you're a new fan, maybe not so much, or maybe you'll get caught up to speed. We also have Whitney Cummings on the show on the back half. One of the wildest interviews I think I've ever done. To say that Whitney came in hot is a gross understatement. I mean, she was ripping. She threw a drink in my face. We were arguing. We were fighting. We talked like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was wild. So we love Whitney. She's got a million projects coming out. So that's the second half of the show. First half of the show, I figured the Penn stuff all happened a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people were asking me questions about everything then, and I kind of waited for the dust to settle a little bit before I did anything. Originally, I was going to write a blog, because that's kind of the way I made my name, and still to this day what I think that I'm best at. However, I decided it was probably best to not be speaking about such topics in writing, because I've already gotten a call from my lawyer. He calls me on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, whatever, over the weekend at some point, because I have not heard anything on any front about my money and equity and anything vesting, and I was just gonna leave it as it is. Let sleeping dogs lie. And I get a call on like Sunday morning, Saturday morning, and I pick up the phone, and I was like, I've been waiting for this call. And my lawyer immediately launches into basically like a stand-up routine, like several minutes before he gets to the punchline, which was basically, basically saying, in another lifetime, next time you do this, maybe don't go on social media and start talking about all the money you just received if you have if you are a divorced person. And I said, touche, sir, touche. But at the same time, this is why that money was even possible for me, because we've always just kind of been an open book here and talked about the crazy shit that goes on in life. It's weird because it started out as a show that is, it worked because we were always honest and open books about what we were going through, and it was all very, very relatable, because it was just regular guys going through life, and that every guy and girl who goes through it as well can relate to what we're saying. And now we're getting to a point where it's not so much more relatable anymore. I'm obviously very lucky and blessed, but I'm hoping that at least there's like a level of like intrigue, and for the people who were along for the ride from day one, I almost hope you feel like a level of accomplishment in your own right, of like, when you're a fan of something from the beginning and you see it all the way through and you see it work out. I almost wish I could pay a debt of gratitude to everybody who was that diehard, because that's how it's all possible. So my point to him was like, I can't not talk about this stuff, and I probably shouldn't even be talking about this phone call either. But again, I can't not talk about it because it's interesting and it's funny. And if there's anybody else who's going through a divorce or money or, equity and all that shit, these are the things that go on. So, yeah, me posting a video about big red boots was the that was the one. That's what did it.
You know, people keep asking me, are things going to be different now that this money cleared? And the obvious answer is no, okay? It's just money. Be cool about it, you know? I'm the same old me. Nothing's going to change. It's just that I got a little more money in my bank account, so everybody be cool about it, all right?
Which, by the way, for the legal record, I didn't even buy them. First of all, for the legal record, those shoes are $300. They go on the secondary market for like $2,000. They're not like, you know, $1 million purchase. And I didn't even buy them. They were just loaned to me by the designer. So,
That was very funny that you got a loaner pair of those boots.
so funny. He was like, he goes like, we got a beater pair like laying around the office. I can send them to you, but you got to have them back by the end of business today. It's like, let's do it. So yeah, my first big thing was to borrow somebody's rubber boots, and that's what got my legal counsel involved. So somehow, some way, I'm still going through that process. I have no idea why it's not just like, here's what people are entitled to, and here's the money, and here's what you get, and that's fucking how it goes. We'll see where that ends up. But it was like, I did want to like just give it a minute before I said anything, because it was like, you know, emotions are running high, and I didn't want to say anything directly in the moment that maybe I didn't, you know, that I wanted to take back or whatever. So I feel like I let the dust settle enough to like report back that nothing has changed. Like, it's so, I guess I haven't really done anything. I'm looking for a house, and there's a chance that I've already found one, and I'll do that. But I have not done a single thing different. And maybe that's just like, I don't know, maybe I the other day I was sitting at home, I was fucking playing Spider-Man with Keegan on PlayStation, and I was like, maybe I should just go do something stupid. Maybe we should just like go spend a bunch of money and do something reckless, or you know, on a whim, Bert Kreischer style, go somewhere or buy something like, you know, crazy out of pocket. I guess I'm just not I'm not good at having money. I think I'm a bad wealthy person. I don't think I know how to do it yet. Now, and I don't want to. It's a weird thing to talk about because people get weird about money. But I've seen so many people, the range of what people think that I got or what I'm doing or how this all shakes out is so funny. The amount of financial experts and legal experts who are like, some people think I'm not getting any money. Some people think I'm getting way more money than I am. It is just always funny to watch people speculate. I owned a few percent of the company, and the total number is public record. You can go do the math and figure out like the ballpark of what I'll end up getting. And they did a 45%, 55% split where I get cash, 45% of it cash now, and then 55% of it is in pen stock that vests again over the next couple of years. So I thought that this day I had circled on the calendar for a long time to get what I thought was going to be everything. And it's I still have 2 more years of like vesting of them having control over my shares, which is not a long time, but I also was hoping to kind of have everything, and then I have, you know, all my leverage and all my money and everything in a row, and I could make a decision on like how and what and where I want to, you know, take my future. But so I still got to be here for a couple more years regardless. I want to be here, but there's definitely still shares vesting over the next couple of years. But it was, you know, enough money that it's a weird, it's just a weird fucking thing. It is a weird thing to just like a lot of people ask, like, how does it happen? Do you just like have the money in your account? And so I was, in classic KFC fashion, I did everything at like the 11th hour. Like, I don't know. I just thought I already have a fucking bank account, checking account, savings account. Like, I don't know. The money's just going to go there. And I get in contact with some people at JP Morgan, and they're like, no, you idiot, you need like a private banking account. I was like, oh, all right, I don't know these things. I don't fucking know how this works.
Yo, I assumed it was on like your Chase card.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was that crazy. I guess
They don't teach this in school. Like every fucking person's going to go through it.
Right. And obviously, it's not, and I'm very lucky to, but I'm speaking to this guy, and he's like, we got to get this. It was the week of. It was like, I think it was a Friday that it all vested, and like we're talking about like on Tuesday, he's like, we're going to have to fast track this through so that the account will be open. And he's like, I don't know if we're going to get it done in time. Not like there was a risk of like the money not being there, but there was definitely a chance of like, you can't get your money yet, which is very funny. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and then I fuck it up and I can't get it in time. So
you came in like a month ago talking about some form, and you were worried about a form.
That I still don't even know.
I
bro.
genuinely was like, oh no, because there was a clip we put out when COVID was just starting to break, where you put it together in your head that was going to stop you from getting the money, and like in real time, we're like, I'm going to jinx this whole thing. This whole thing's going to take the planet. And like, until like now, I've been like worried, like
something was going to go wrong.
Part of me's a piece of shit, and it was like, numbers would be really.
Oh my god! Imagine like podcaster like blows fortune on clerical error. We're not out of the woods yet.
Oh no!
No, I think we're good. But
yeah, that was always like I never wanted to bring it up. I was always just like,
well, there's just so
like hold the breath.
It's you know what it was. There, I am such a mush, and I am from day one with Barstool. I was very like, don't touch the money. Don't get ahead of yourself. In some ways, I wish I was more like Dave. Like Dave was like, I'm not gonna lose. I'm gonna like he knew it. I read a blog of like the State of the Union from him in like 2006, I want to say, where he was like, I don't know how, and I don't know like who, what, when, where, why just yet, but I know that gambling is gonna be legalized, and I know I'm like that's who I am, and I'm the best at it, and I'm gonna get rich off this. I was like, I am super pumped to not have to work a desk job. And that has always been that has always been like the main thing that I got out of Barstool. Like, I mean, I've told the story a billion times, but if you're somehow a new listener, you don't know it. I was an accountant. I worked a shitty job that I hated and I was terrible at. Barstool fell into my lap. I started to audition for it. I worked both jobs for like 2 years on top of the first couple years. So I was like an accountant for like 4 years out of school. And then I got lucky and could jump over to Barstool. That to me was like, I got enough taste, like 4 years out of school of shitty cube life. I was like, this is terrible and I can't do this. And like, what am I going to do? Because this is just how my life's going to be. So when I found a little exit strategy, I was like, cool, we're set. I can do this for life. You know, whatever the money is, the money is. And then as we started to grow, you know, the thought of having more money got, you know, more and more real. But I remember thinking like, I hope that one day we're worth tens of millions of dollars. And then Dave was like, we could maybe make this $100 million company. And I was like, oh my God, $100 million. And then, so the day that he took me for coffee in Miami, because I found out about everything one day prior to the public. Like, I was not on the inside of this at all. I'll talk about that in a second. So we were in Miami for the Super Bowl, and it was also sadly right after Kobe died, and Ron Artest posted a picture of himself laying on his back with his phone kind of at his stomach, angled up at his face, and he had like a double chin and said something like "Rest in peace, Kobe," and it was a very strange way to like pay tribute to Kobe, and it was kind of getting made fun of on the internet. And it looked exactly like one of those what you see versus what she sees. You know, the picture of the girl where it looks like she's sucking a guy's dick and what the guy sees. And so I tweeted that, like that meme. And people didn't like it. It was in poor taste right after Kobe's death. I wasn't making fun of Kobe. I was making fun of Ron Artest. But it was this whole thing. And Dave, like the night before, had said to me, like, what was up with that tweet? Like, you didn't really need to send that. What was the angle there? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was making fun of Ron Artest. That's the angle. And he never really got in the weeds with me as far as like what I can and can't tweet. There's been things over the years where he was like, boy, you really, put it on a tee for our haters to come after us with this tweet and that tweet. But otherwise, we never got down to like a granular level like that. But he was kind of like, meh, didn't love that one. And I was like, I don't know. What are you going to do? Too late now. But the next day, he's like, can you meet me for coffee? And I was like, I think I might have deleted it if you're trying to find it. That might be hard to find. But I was like, dude, is like, what am I in trouble with a teacher? What's going on here? Like, I'm going to meet for coffee and you're going to like chastise me or something? So I went into that meeting being like, kind of ready to like defend myself and like go to battle with Dave for like the billionth time. And instead, he was like, so we sold the company. So it went like the pendulum swung to the other direction. And then when he told me the number, and he told me originally it was $450, and I almost fell off my chair. And then we learned over the course of the deal that it could go all the way up to $650. So when I thought it was $450, I thought it was insane. When I thought there was a potential to be $100, I thought that was crazy. When Chernin initially like valued us at like $80 million, I was like, this is so fucking crazy. I cannot even believe it. And I was hoping to get just like, I don't know, a down payment on a house one day out of my equity or some shit like that. So this is all to say that I never, ever like. And I think people say a lot of times, like, never in my wildest dreams did I think that something like this could happen. But I think a lot of people who get there maybe don't really say that. Or if they do, they're kind of bullshitting. Because I think a lot of people who set out to do it are guys like Dave. Like, I think Dave was like, I want to be rich and famous, and I'm going to do it. Whereas I was like, I'm just fucking going through life here, and I kind of caught a good break. So I never, like, had plans for it, never. And then when the deal went down and I had to wait, then I really was like, something's going to happen. Like, even Kirk Minahan used to joke. He was like, something bad's going to happen to Kevin. He's not going to, he's going to die before that money comes in, or something's going to go down with the company. And believe me, there was a lot of times along the way where, like, when the, whatever that fucking Twitter account was that dug up our old rundowns where we got in trouble for that, and then there was the whole incident with Dave and Willie and Brandon Newman, and a lot of personal shit goes on, and I was like, there's a million things along the way that I thought was like, this could take down Barstool or like really hurt its popularity. I thought obviously everything that went down with me, I thought was, a potential career ruiner. Everything that's gone on with other people and other events at the company could have easily like knocked us off track. So I was very much like, I'm not gonna. People were like, you can take out a loan against your equity and have money now, and A, that's not really true for what my situation was, and B, I didn't want to like go into debt like as my very first thing. So I was just like, I'm gonna sit here and wait. And particularly after the whole public scandal with my marriage, I like put my head down and I was like, I'm gonna wait 5 years. That was my plan all along. I was like, I've got to get my career back on track. I got to get, things with my kids back on track. And then I don't want to make any long-term moves because my life is drastically going to change come 2023. It's a very, very weird thing to have like a end date on your calendar in a good way, but knowing that your life will be like radically different. Because I was like, okay, I'm selling my house that I was living in while I was married, and I was like, where am I going to go now? I know in the coming years I'm going to have enough money to eventually get a really nice place, but that is absolutely not the case right now. I've got a shit ton of legal bills. I'm not making enough money. I've got to pay for the kids, my own life. I was like, there's no way I can do it, now. So I went and got like a shitty old apartment, and I was like, I'm just going to stay here and grind it out and bust my ass at work until like the day comes. And as much as I hate to admit it, like the amount of work and the opportunities and the things that I were able to start and grow once I was single is, it's exponentially more than I would have ever been able to do if I was still married. And I don't know if that is across the board for every person or every marriage. In my case, it was very much like a trade-off between relationship and work. And when one was thriving, the other one was suffering. And so I was able to start a Mets podcast and start 1 Minute Man and, start doing KFC radio more often and more seriously. And we grew the whole team. Back then it was like, me, my brother, John, kind of just like throwing podcasts together. And then over those 5 years, we like formalized the whole thing. We have the team, we have a whole process. And a lot of that was because like I was able to throw myself into work and have that mentality. So then, I live in this like shitty apartment for a few years. Right on the eve of like with a year left, I was like, all right, I'm almost there. I'll be able to get a house or whatever. I've got to move because my building sold and I lost my apartment. So I downgraded even further, where I went back to the Bronx where my family owns a couple 2-family apartments. So here I am at like 37, essentially moving back in with my parents. They're giving me one of their apartments that, like, by the grace of God, one of the tenants happened to move out. So all of a sudden, I'm like, I can go live there for 6 months, and then everything will come in. But, like, so we're talking, like, limping to the finish line, living in City Island in the Bronx. I finally posted a video of it the other day. Did you guys see the gun range video?
I did see that. That's unbelievable.
Like, that was my childhood. Like, it's called Rodman's Neck. It's at the very last tippy tip of the Bronx. It's where all the NYPD goes to. I think like there's a gun range to learn how to use it. I think if they like have any like illegal ammunition that they need to like fire off and all that shit. So my whole life, all I ever heard was just like, and it was just like, I was always like, what's that sound? And the parents were like, it's the guns. And I was just like, what the fuck does that mean? And they were like, it's the police with the guns. It was that, and because we're like right in between LaGuardia, we're right by LaGuardia and JFK, which is planes overhead all the time and fucking guns shooting all the time. And as much as I was an open book, even I was like, I'm not really going to tell everybody that I live next to the fucking NYPD gun range, because that was for sure the poorest thing about me. So, like, down to the very last second, I was roughing it. I don't want to say roughing it, but it's like, I had a good salary. Obviously, KFC Radio was doing very well. Barstool was doing very well. It's not roughing it, but it was like, anybody who's divorced knows you're basically funding 2 different lives and paying bills, and that shit adds up. So it certainly was not. Everybody knows the Hyundai meltdown. That was, if you're a KFC Radio fan, that meltdown was one for the record books. That was when people were like, "You're fucking rich. Why are you driving a shitty car?" That was my infamous like, "I don't have any money." And then I get the fucking the "you're a millionaire" crowd coming out. I don't have any money. I have none. Everybody listening probably has more money than me. I give all of it to the kids. I have no money. I am so fucking broke. Do you think I would drive a Hyundai if I was a millionaire? I am poor. I know you think I do. I don't.
It's one of the funniest rants ever, and like when in reality,
you guys are just howling laughing.
It was. You had posted a whole entire tweet thread prior to that, just like chronicling what happened, and you just texted me, "Get the fucking cameras on." Yeah. And I just sat here, ready. Had everything rolling for like 20, 30 minutes until you got in.
Yeah.
And was just like, John was just sitting there, we just sat in silence, and he just came in and went. And it's still
that was
one of the best.
That was the like all of it coming out, because there when when the deal went down, everybody got rich but me. And I don't even like to think about that or talk about that. I know all of the deal was public records, and everyone was like, I know a lot of my friends who are either lawyers or in finance or diehard fans were reading basically all the information. And we're always like, a lot of people were reaching out being like, do you like know what's going on here? And I was like, yep, I do. And I don't want to talk about it because it was basically when Chernin came and bought Barstool, or infused money or invested, however you want to call it, I was like an integral part of that time. We were interviewing CEOs. I was meeting Chernin and Mike Kearns and Jesse Jacobs and all these people from their company. I was like very much a part of it. Second time around with Penn, nothing. Like it was, I met Jay Snowden like once. I think I went to dinner with them once and then never really heard anything again. And that was, the whole big deal was gambling. So the key employees, like literally listed as key employees, like a legal terminology, capitalized letters, was Dan, Dave, and Erica. And so that was like basically me getting cut out of that. And I mean, that's just how it is. It's not no more, no less. Like they told me it was, a gambling venture, and I'm not a gambler. So, they didn't view me as like a necessary piece of the puzzle. Now, my counter to that is like, if I can't even think of an example, but if there was like a comedy conglomerate, if like a Netflix or Comedy Central or I don't know, somebody who was in comedy and entertainment, which is our field, if they were the ones who came along and were like, we want to buy you, you can bet your bottom dollar those other guys would have been a part of that. Because I don't gamble, I was like on the outside looking in on that deal. I think is a little weird because I think it's like a strange thing that you have to. But those, Penn viewed those guys as the essential people and not me. And I was just like, all right, whatever. It is what it is. So that was a very big part of me just being like I had to be like very zen about it because, it was like the three of us were like the three guys doing it, and then two got instantly paid, and one was on the outside looking in, and that happened to be me. Now, I can't be too sour grapes about it because I know that my payday was coming, but like even when we did the rundown the day after, Dave was like, so yeah, like now you got money too, so no more bitching and complaining. I was like, well, I think there was a valid reason to maybe bitch and complain when, there was, I think I got like I got a few shares of Penn in the very beginning. That was a nice chunk of money, but not, anything that we're talking about now. So this is all a very long-winded way to say that I kept everything mentally and emotionally like at arm's length down to like the very last second of like, I didn't have any tax people ready. I didn't have any banking people ready, financial advisors, because I was just like, I don't want to fuck it up. It's pretty silly to be superstitious about something like this where it's like, hey, asshole, be an adult and like get your ducks in a row because this is a big deal. But I really, probably psychologically that was a big part of it where I was like, I don't want to, jinx it. So this is all to come back to people asking me how did it like happen? People said like, did you just like at midnight, does the number in your bank account just change, or do you get an alert or whatever? When the money came in, I didn't know my username to log in to the account. So I tried using my current Chase login.
I got like 3 I could guess for you.
That's what I mean. Like I have my steady rotation of usernames and passwords, but that was not for this new like JP Morgan private banking or whatever. So I had to just be like, what's my user? Like I texted the guy and he wrote back, the funds are in, and he wrote the number. And I was like, so that's how I found out, was a text message from a guy who set up my username and password so he could see it. And he confirmed to me that yes, the money is in fact in there because I didn't even have my own fucking login yet. So, but once that happens, like it's just it's a very strange thing that, it's a very modern thing to go through where like I just have an app that has a different number now. You know, there's not like stacks of cash. It's not like George McDuck, McScrooge, what's his name? Scrooge McDuck diving in, you know, gold coins. It's just a number on an app with a couple commas, which is the name of the game in life is just try to get as many commas as you can, right? So, but because I didn't like ever, you know, jinx it, didn't want to jinx it, I never like started to think like, all right, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna buy that. My first move is gonna be here, and then I'm gonna do this, that, and the other thing. I like refused to let myself do that. I didn't want to get ahead of myself. So now here I am, like a couple weeks afterwards, and that's not a lot of time, I understand. But the only thing I've been doing so far is looking for a house. But everything else is just kind of, you know, business as usual, which is very strange to like the very first day was like the dog threw up in my fucking car after he kind of busted his leg, and the kids were sick, and one of them had to come home early from school, and, you know, I'm getting chewed out from, you know, one of the women in my family while the ex is saying this and work is saying that, and it was just like, nothing's fucking different, guys. So I also have no idea what like price range I'm playing in for anything. Like you basically know, you know, what your salary is and what you can afford, and then when that all changes, it's like, can I spend this much? Can I spend that much? I asked Dave, I was like, I don't know how much money to spend on a house. Now, Dave's Dave, right?
I was
Dave,
going to say,
we're different.
I can't imagine he gave you like a solid. I feel like he would have just like joked back.
No. He gave me an answer, but he gave an answer like Dave was buying like his Nantucket house, second homes, even before churning.
Yeah,
like that was just when Barstool was making good revenue, and he was like, I'm ready to make a big investment. I am, you know, I needed to wait to have like enough cash to really be safe. I was like, you know, what range are we talking? And he's throwing out numbers that I'm like, I could have $1 billion, and I don't know if I would spend this much on a house. And so that is going to be the very first thing I do, and that will be extremely weird. But it's a very what I learned through this whole experience is the, you know, because there's the never-ending debate of like, can money buy happiness, and more money, more problems, and all that kind of shit. And when people hear that, it's very aggravating. When you don't have money, you're like, fuck you. Money could absolutely buy me happiness. What are you talking about? And as I started to get more money, like I can absolutely definitively say when I was making less money, when I was in like my mid-20s, I was like happier, life was easier, I had more disposable income, and everything was just easier and more fun than when I was making more money in my 30s. Now, that's also because of personal choices. I decided to get married. I decided to have kids. I ended up with a divorce. I decided to buy a house. I did all these things that put stress on your bank account. So if I just stayed a single guy and continued to make that money, most definitely I would have been like balling out. But that's just not how life goes, right? You get more money, you get more expenses, you get more responsibility at work, so things are going well, but you also have, you know, more on your plate. And I have found that as in doing well, bills and expenses seem to grow at a faster rate than the money. So even when you start doing well, you know, again, if you make different life choices, you're fine. But, you know, life happens and shit happens, and all of a sudden you find yourself like, well, my salary's bigger, but also all of these things I got to pay for are a lot bigger. And if I went back to a fraction of the money, but a fraction of the responsibility, my life when I had a Deloitte salary and I was just making $25K under the table from Barstool, I thought I was Rockefeller. I was probably making... I was making 65 at Deloitte and 25 at Barstool, and maybe a bonus, so like upwards of like $100,000 as like a 20-something.
Were you just living with a bunch of guys in an apartment?
I had 4 dudes in an apartment. That was like the best time of my life. I've always said, for me, people say the 4-year college, the best 4 years of your life. 22 to 26 was my absolute like favorite because it was post college. we also went to a college where everybody stayed in the area. So it wasn't like all your college friends, you lose them all. We basically just continued college, but with money and with our own apartments and with no rules and work and no schoolwork and shit. So 22 to 26 was unbelievable. And then you sprinkle in around 26 was when Barstool started. So all of a sudden we get some perks from that. Like that becomes, 26 to 28 was like a whole other party. So, for me, like, the money has not been the main driver of like the happiness and the fun. But what I did learn, and I hate that it's this way, but there just is something about the way the world works now where two things. Number one, knowing that like I'm lucky enough that there is enough money that within reason, we can do, whatever we need to do. Like my parents and my sister are both like looking for a house now along with me, and like I can help them with that. New babies being born, school in the future, all that, like just all of that. It's like I'm going to spend my money in such a way that like I can make sure I handle all of that for everybody. If I was like it's not that I'm making like billions of dollars. It's just that I'm not spending it in such a way that it's going to be gone very quickly. So it's like I think I'll be set for all of that major, a wedding in the future for Shay, her first house, Keegan's first, all this shit. Hopefully I can help them start businesses, all that. Like if you play the money the way I'm hoping to play it, I think that's just all there now, which is a very cool feeling. And the second thing being, there just is some status feeling of like, and I hate that it's this way, and I don't want to sound like a douche about it, but like there is just a feeling of like, I think people take me more seriously. I think I've gotten some more phone calls and some more opportunities. I think that people look at me a different way, and it's like I said, literally nothing has changed. As of right now, I'm still living in the shitty apartment with the guns, but certain people are treating me in a different way because my name was in the news and there's some talk about money, and so like there definitely is just going to be. And I hope it's this way because I say I hope it's this way because I want to benefit from it. I want people to, the next steps I want to take with Barstool and with business, I think if I did it as, just a Barstool employee versus, oh, you're one of the guys who like cashed out, I think that people will treat me very differently. The reason I don't want it to be this way is like, it's just a sad, like, statement on the world today that it's just like, again, I'm the same dude, but you're treating me differently. Why? Because not even just because I told you my bank account's bigger. Not like I'm giving it to you. Not like I'm doing anything. It's just like you heard through the news that my bank account's bigger, and now you're treating me different. That's a sad state of affairs for the world. But hey, that is the world, and so there is just something of like, you feel like you belong at the table, or you can swim in the deep end, or what? I guess it's a lot like I used to say about being able to fight. Like I always regretted my life not being able to fight, not taking any like martial arts or jiu-jitsu or training MMA. It seems like so many kids now, like growing up, everybody has been exposed to like boxing and MMA. Not boxing, but MMA and jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all that shit. So it's so popular that like more people are involved in it, so more people can handle themselves and know how to fight. And I always wish that I could, not because I would run around like picking fights and beating people up, but knowing that if I was in a room where shit went down and broke down to like the absolute most primal level of like people fighting, I could handle myself. I think that I would walk in to every room with a lot more confidence. I would walk into every argument I ever had, any debate I was involved in, any negotiation, every, bar, every whatever, I would be like, I'm good. If shit pops off, I know exactly what I'm doing. I think there's a little bit of a feeling of that financially where it's like, it's not, again, I don't want to come off. The only reason I'm doing this is I do like to be transparent about things, and I think there's an intriguing side of it that I think people want to hear about. I'm not doing it to like brag about it or whatever, but I do think that there's a certain level of like I can just do, I hopefully can make more things happen business wise and more opportunities and more things. And just knowing that that's the case, you just kind of carry yourself a little different, being like, even the thing with Bert was very interesting because it was right at the very end where Bert was taking us out, and Bert is on such another level professionally and financially. So this still holds true. But Bert was taking us out like the way like your uncle takes out like his nephews, like these little kids who, I'm going to show them a good time. And I was like 2 weeks away from being able to be like, I could, let me pay for dinner and let me pay for this and I can pay for that. Like this, I don't need like this, charity. So that like, something like that comes along. Like, I guess like I can do those things for other people now. Like those kind of feelings are cool. And that makes me feel more confident about like other stuff in life. And hopefully what this next chapter of Barstool is going to be. I feel like if Barstool is serious about it and we go about it the right way, I do not see how Barstool fails in the world of comedy. We have made so many inroads at KFC Radio in the comedy world that almost every comic respects us and likes us and wants to work with us. And now if we formalize that and Barstool New York becomes hopefully like a hub for stand-up comics and TikTok stars and script writers and internet video creators and whatever genre of entertainment you're in, it's like we were able to do that the first go round. We did it with blogging and a little bit of video, and we started from fucking zero. Dave started from zero. Now we're starting on like third base with the amount of connections, with the amount of money, the pen backing. If we apply everything we know about building a network of internet comedy, internet entertainment, and we do it in this world of stand-up comedy and podcasters and micro podcasters and TikTok creators and all that, it's just like, Barstool became a force when social media didn't even exist. Now we have 22 million followers on TikTok. We have 15 million followers on Instagram. I can go to every up-and-coming comic or up-and-coming personality and be like, you want to get involved with us? Here's what you get immediately. Like, you get exposure like this. You get distribution like this. We can help you with production. We can help you with creativity. We give you the production space, the literal and figurative support that you need. And in exchange, you do it under the Barstool umbrella. You're a full-time Barstool employee. You're a part-time. You're a freelancer. Like, what, revenue sharing, whatever version we come up with. You're an investor, you own equity, we know people that are at the top of the comedy game all the way down to the new open micers. We know, all the podcasters and everything in between. And now we're in a place to like, we've figured out the game and we know how to do it. So let's go do it with the funniest people on the planet Earth. That to me sounds like I don't want to say easy because it's still hard work and a lot of breaks have to go your way. And, I've always said a million times before that the biggest part of Barstool not only is like the talent and the hard work, but the amount of luck and the breaks that we got are what like got us to where we're at. So we would still need a lot of that shit to fall into place to ever really replicate the success again. But I just don't see, we position ourselves so well to go do that. I don't see how it doesn't work out. It's going to take a commitment to like the comedy world that we haven't done yet. Like, we've done it in sports in general, but we've done it in hockey and we've done it with golf and the like celebrity gossip world and all that shit. If we apply like all that same shit to the world of comedy, I think that will be the biggest and almost like one of the only. There's a couple other like comedy production houses out there, but I don't think anybody that can compete with our like resources and our level. So I'm hoping that that's the next like chapter. Is we'll keep doing the content that we do, but also like this kind of becoming almost like an executive in a way where we are finding the talent. And because as much as I hope and I think that some people like the content that I make. I think, to go back to the very beginning, I was always planning on kind of just being like in the business world and being like a regular person. So, I studied in finance and did my MBA and all that shit. And not that I know anything really because of that, but I would hope to maybe apply some of the knowledge there and go back into like the business side of things where it's like, all right, here's how to leverage some new talent and here's, how to grow an entire network that I think, Dave did great the first time around. And I think we can do, something similar and add our own twist to it here in New York. And I think that the people who are staying are not going to Chicago are very amped up to do it. I think as much as Dave turned this into a place, he said on the KFC radio interview that what he did was make the office a scary place to come. And that was his goal. And he fucking achieved it. He did just that. And so there was always drama and fights and intrigue. And that's what made Barstool salacious. And people wanted to be on the inside of the club. I get all that. And that might end up being the best entertainment we've ever created. Time will tell. But from the inside, I can definitively tell all the fans that the people who work here, the amount of people who have come up to me being like, I'm going to like not being scared to come to work. I've always wanted this place to be a little more like relaxed and I've said this a million times, but we can collaborate more and we can, share ideas more and, writers' rooms and helping production.
That's the one that drives me crazy.
So many good, funny
crazy.
minds that we keep siloed off. And it's like, why do we do that?
The one thing that, and this probably wouldn't be in the immediate, but the fact that, when we had Ben Schwartz in, and he pointed out to us, there hasn't been a true comedy out in 10 years. And now we see the fatigue with Marvel. Everyone's
people are itching for that type of movie. Yeah.
And to go back to the Monty Pythons, Judd Apatow's era, dominating comedies, we have the right people,
totally.
And the right fans,
and even
to start doing that again.
The amount of times that I know that I'm not a good,
and we have the comedians that are funny that can
totally
act.
Totally, that's the thing. I know that I can't act, but I have certain, I think, premises and ideas that could either be a good skit or a good pilot or a good segment of a comedy or a sitcom or a movie scene. Then I can't do that, but I can. Let me pitch that off. Hey, let me hand that off to a guy who can do that. Here's an idea, run with it because you're a good writer, and you come to me with what I'm good at, and we all, it's like I'm sure there are people sitting there being like, yeah, what are you talking about? That's day one stuff, but it's not at Barstool. It's not how we do things ever. So. And I would probably imagine that there's a lot of places in the entertainment world and Hollywood that, people don't collaborate because they want to keep their shine and their money and their star. But some places, there definitely is this is where you get together and create awesome shit together, whether it's, writing music or fucking scripts or part of me, I was trying to think about the amount of people, how many people in the space are just podcasters? Because I was thinking about me and John, and what I think I'm most proud about is when you look at all the other places, all the other shows that are really successful inside Barstool and outside, there's usually a professional athlete or a stand-up comic or a former XYZ, whatever. And me and John are just what's our hook? I don't know. We just started from the beginning, and everybody else is they did something and now they do a podcast. They had another career and now they do a podcast. Whereas we're just podcasters, And I think Dan and PFT were that. Dave is that. He's not really a podcaster, but he just is an internet personality. But almost, right? Am I overlooking other other people. Like,
trying to think. I can't remember.
You know, all the shows we like are stand-up comics. They're professional comedians who now are like, let me start a podcast. Rogan and those guys are actors.
That's what even any of the
all the
ones,
sports people are like, you know, I'm a former athlete. I used to play hockey. Used to play whatever.
Everything I've ever listened to, it's like by a former actor or writer, like someone, and they're always podcasting on the side.
Right. It's like their side gig or their I need to stay relevant gig or I want to stay up to date with the 21st century gig. Whereas like it's just this is what we do. It's like, oh, what do you podcast about? Your former life? No. It's just like we just do this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting spot to be where it's like we know what people like and like I think that when we are trying to find new talent, we can talk to the comedians who are like, hey, who do you think is the next up-and-comer who's so funny? And they'll give you a bunch of names, but a few of those names are going to be people who are like, no. Those are the weird people that the comics like that fans don't like. And we know that because we're normal people, you know? We're kind of like that gap between where it's like we have access to the world of comedy and entertainment and sports and all that while still being connected to the regular world where it's like we know what the average guy or girl is going to want to consume. And I think that's a very valuable position to be in because some of these it's like, oh, let's just go get this former athlete. And it's like, that's not going to work. The correct former athlete will work. A guy like Biz and Whit, you know? You go get any old superstar, that doesn't play out the right way, you know? And we know that because we've seen what works and what doesn't. And so, you know, we have an eye and an ear for that kind of shit. And now with, you know, the right people behind it and the right money behind it, I don't see how we don't find all of the next, you know, there's going to be a next Shane Gillis, you know, there's going to be a new Mark Normand and Sam Morril and those guys who, Chris DiStefano, we've seen come up through the internet. Like, if we just have access to the next 3, 4, 5 of them that come through, this place could be absolutely fucking spectacular. And not to mention the amount of talent that is already just sitting here. Like, I was watching Roan rap battle this weekend.
Unbelievable.
It's insane. It is. I've watched him do it a couple times, like live on pay-per-view, and I've seen all of his videos on YouTube. And like every time I watch it, I'm like, I cannot believe that dude stands in like a warehouse surrounded by these people in a crowd and fucking spits that and stays calm. I can't even do a live podcast without sweating. He's fucking battling people and doesn't even, you know, break a sweat. Like a guy like that, incredibly talented. You know, the writing, the minds of like a guy like Nick Turani, like even guys like Tommy Smokes and Rudy, like people who are like I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but they were like bit characters along the way of like the Barstool saga. And it's like, no, those guys are fucking hilarious.
The clips
like,
that I keep seeing from Please End This is cracking
so
me up.
Fucking funny.
And I love that they're going a different direction with the show where it's no longer a podcast. They're doing like skits and like...
Yeah, because podcasting's probably dead for these kids now. Like, it's like that, we're the dinosaurs now. Like, there's new shit to be on.
Like that video of Tommy doing the Joker to...
Oh my God.
Like, he fucked Rudy's face
so ridiculous. Like,
God, I hate this. Ew. Do you want to know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend. One night he goes off crazier than usual. My mommy gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. So he takes the knife, looks at me laughing while he does it. Why so serious? He comes at me with the knife. Why so serious? And he sticks the blade in my mouth. Let's put a smile on that face. And why so serious?
like Tommy is.
But
dude, I walked by the hallway here. He had a sticker of Martin Short's face over his face, and he was doing some skit with Rhea and Kelly Keegs, and I was like, I can't even begin to guess what the point of that was. It's that weird sense of humor that like there's already a lot of that in house.
It feels such like a void that like you need that. You need like the way he did like a fucking Nathan for you, pretty much, with Mincy. Like,
Ah.
you need that brain.
Totally.
Like,
And like it's
so
just sitting
valuable.
there, and we've done so much of like, here, go make it on your own. That if you give a little bit of help and
to be fair, we didn't allow him to think for 2 years.
well, he was alarmingly
Yeah.
stupid back then,
And we canceled his
So,
thoughts. So
I will allow Tommy Smokes to use his brain if he sticks around. And I hope it's something that I have, control over. I think it's something that they have voiced that they want, but it's like, do you really want it, or do you want me to just like make it look like New York is still busy? Because we can do both of those. We can either just, make the appearance, keep up appearances, or we can go become like the greatest fucking comedy network that the world has ever seen, because we are in a very unique position to do just that. And I personally have always like, I hate promoting our show. I hate posting our own stuff, and I love doing it for other people. I would be the biggest hype man ever for if we were, basically like talent manager, evaluators, whatever. I love putting people on to new comics. My favorite thing is when people say, "Oh, I had never listened to Chrissy D before he came on your show," or something like that. I'm like, that is the number one thing we're trying to do. So if they want to do it and go about it the right way, like that is what I really hope the next level is. And again, hopefully that opens where I'm at, like where I got to personally. I think opens up some more doors, even down to things like if management disagrees with me, I want to be like, I don't know, I'll give them the fucking money they're looking for, because I can guarantee you this guy or girl is going to be next, and I'm not going to miss it. I brought people forward over the course of the last like 10 years that we ended up passing on, that ended up being fucking huge. And I'm like, if I was in more of a position personally to say like, okay, whatever they say doesn't matter, let's do this, I think things would have been differently. So hopefully I can help that along. And the last thing before we get to Whitney is he's not here today, so I'm happy to be able to talk about it, because he'll probably never even hear this. But anybody who's been listening knows that John, unfortunately, missed out on so many times of so many pieces of equity or control of IP, and just big paydays that he really should have been a part of. And he's always so cool about it and so calm about it, and I think that's part of who he is. But I also think deep down he's probably like, fuck, this sucks. And unfortunately, I don't know. I can't even speak to how things shook out with Barstool, where he was not a part of that inner circle. I don't know why. It was just things. My opinion of him differed from others, and that's just how it goes. But unfortunately, like, a lot of people are making what they think is a normal assumption, like, congratulations to both you guys. And he's just been cool about it every time, being like, I'm not really in on that, or like whatever. And but I'm absolutely making sure that he gets taken care of for everything he's done with KFC Radio, because he and my brother were the only two other people who started it with me. So those are like ground floor day one guys who maybe they didn't get the nod from Barstool to get equity, but if KFC Radio was its own little conglomerate, they have equity in this show. So not in a formal way, but in an informal way, I'll for sure be taking care of those guys for what they did. So everybody can at least share in some of the piece of the pie, because I think it should be a lot more than that. But I would be hypocritical if I've said all these years about how certain Saturdays for the Boys and certain ideas and things that he didn't get paid for, and now all of a sudden there is a payday, and I got to make sure he's a part of that. So just, you don't have to say anything to John. He probably will never hear this, but for any fans who are deep in our world and are curious about it, like, I would never not take care of those guys for what they did to make this possible, because it's something I never even thought in my wildest dreams would happen, and it wouldn't have happened without my brother and like his the ideas to start it, and all the groundwork and the technical work and all that shit he did in the beginning. And it would never have happened without the weird fucking stories and the persona of Feidelberg. So it all came together nicely. It's all a very cool it's a cool story that I think will not really be replicated in any. There's always going to be stories of other people in entertainment and other people who made it and came from nothing and have wild stories, but I don't think one that will ever quite replicate just like Barstool. And I think the fans and the listeners KFC Radio listeners are some of the savviest, day one, early adopters, whatever you want to call it. They've always been a part of that. And I think if there is another level of that here at Barstool, New York, I think they'll be a big part of what's to come next. So it's all very cool. Obviously, I'm the lucky one here, but like I said, if you were a fan in the beginning, it's always fun to put people on to this podcast or this show or this personality, and then when they make it, it's like an I told you so moment. So for all the Preem Team listeners, the early day one people, the YouTube people, the Mail Time people, and Daily Mail and all that shit, it was that word of mouth and those people who stuck with it that allowed me to even get to this level. So a very, very, my deepest thank you to anybody who helped me get here, and hopefully what's next is, I think, a potential to be 1,000 times bigger. So hopefully everyone is in agreement on how to go about it, and we can go do some big things with the biggest comics and the biggest entertainers in the world and on the internet, and KFC Radio can be the driving force behind everything that goes on here in New York. And it's something that I think I've always wanted to do, and I think we can do it now. We just all got to get on the same page and make it happen. So again, thank you to everybody. Keep up with what's next. Barstool Comedy, Barstool New York, whatever it may be. I think it's going to be just as big as Barstool Sports has been, and I think the potential is there. So as I say that, Whitney Cummings on the show, another comic who's a showrunner and a producer and a director and an actor and a stand-up and one of the smartest people in the world, and she came through here like a fucking bat out of hell, ripped the place apart, tore us a new asshole, and then bounced to do the Today Show or something fucking crazy like that. So an absolute whirlwind after my little KFC Radio State of the Union. Let's get into it. So Whitney Cummings on KFC Radio is brought to you by our newest endeavor, Pirate Water. I got it right here. This is the perfect example of what we are capable of doing and who we have access to. We've got the guy who started Saturdays Are for the Boys, basically the original internet party sensation. We got the guy who took the baton and ran with it in Zillion Beers, Dana Beers. And the number one party girl on the planet Earth, Brianna Chicken Fry, with Sleep When You're Dead. All three of those brands come together to create Pirate Water, which we're making no bones about it. This is a party drink. This is for the people who like to get down, who like to party. It's cheap. It's 10% alcohol by volume. It's 16 ounces. It gets you where you need to be. If you're pre-gaming, if you're tailgating, if you're brown bagging it, whatever it may be, this is not for, we're not sipping, we're not swirling and tasting, we're partying with Pirate Water. It's like Four Loko, but for the new generation. And right now, we've got a Pirate Water treasure hunt going on. So basically, we have a real life, actual, in real life treasure hunt where we're going to be at a bar in New York. We're going to be dropping clues tonight, right? Tuesday?
Yes.
The 28th, is it? Yeah. So I'll be at the bar. In order to find out where I'm going to be, you have to follow KFC Radio, Dana Beers, and Plan Brie, which is Brianna's podcast account. Those will be the three accounts putting out the clues and the hints. So Dana Beers, KFC Radio, at Plan Brie. Plan Brie Uncut. At Plan Brie, that's it?
Plan Brie Uncut, I believe.
Plan Brie Uncut. Those are the three you got to follow. And that will tell you where to go if you're in any of those cities. First come, first serve. Whoever gets there, you get the Pirate Water treasure chest, which has merch and beverages and all sorts of stuff. And also, you can come hang out and drink some new Pirate Waters with us. Go to drinkpiratewater.com to find out information and to find Pirate Water near you. Anybody who tweets us any pictures from the local gas station or liquor stores or wherever it's sold, if you find a Pirate Water stand, take a picture, send it to us, tag us. We're going to be sending out free merch, free KFC Radio Live tickets. It's one of the biggest endeavors we've ever taken on here. So Pirate Water, it's the new party drink. Go get it. DrinkPirateWater.com. It's Whitney Cummings on KFC Radio.
It's just like, so I essentially tried to do my set as like a little bit of a State of the Union in comedy, sort of about, you know, in general, like, I don't even know how to promote this, you know, like it used to be you would just go on like Letterman and Leno and we'd be fine. Now I have to go to like 6 guys' garages. And, like, they have to prank call my mom. I have to go, I have to go eat chicken wings.
Yeah, you have to drink a bunch of drinks.
with some guy named Sean, like S-E-A-N.
Are you doing hot ones?
Like, fuck you. Dude, I didn't do hot ones like in the beginning, and now they're just like, oh, sorry, Viola
Obama's
Davis
on.
is on. Can we not have Viola Davis eating chicken wings?
Today's LL Cool J.
What, when black people are on there eating chicken wings, I'm just like, Jesus fucking hell, you guys. Like, and so... and then I got to go fight with Mark Maron, you know.
For sure. It's not easy.
For 2 hours, he's yelling at me about...
But if you're willing to do it, it's the best way
Of course.
to get it to it. But
yeah,
it's a
and
lot.
then I say that I have to go to Barstool Sports, where the main sport is trying to figure out where it even fucking airs. Like his Dave Portnoy.
You, Fuck you.
No, we cover every, you know. But then I sort of do this, I don't know, this thing where I'm like, you know, I don't know if I should cut it or not. I'm gonna botch it, and I'm not gonna perform it because that'll be humiliating. But your whiskey has made me confident. I say like, oh, I better be careful being a woman in comedy because so many people are getting canceled now. But the bar for getting canceled as a woman is so much lower. Like for a man to be canceled in Hollywood, like 12 interns have to complain about like the button under his desk that like shuts the door behind them. And to be a woman in comedy canceled, you just have to like be a big fat grump. Like Ellen, like how can someone,
Ellen was just like mean to some interns and she's gone.
but also like how can someone be mean to you if you're not allowed to make eye contact with them?
Yeah,
like how did you even know?
Right.
You know, but then I do like Ellen was the first person, like she got me too. Like she was the first person to get canceled, like just for her personality. It's got to be bad when someone's like your personality is as bad as rape.
I think
It's like,
I would rather be with Harvey Weinstein than just around you for 5 minutes.
but also like meanwhile, Lorne Michaels is running the Sanford prison experiment that we call SNL. And he's a father figure. Like, what?
Dude,
like,
Rosebud was in here the other day being like, I haven't gone home in months.
dude, by the way, he's still paying people $800 a week to live in New York.
true.
The hours are 8 a.m.
so
to
true.
midnight every night. And then Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Like, just, like, fucking say it, Lauren. You hate moms. Just admit it.
I think Rosebud said she literally hadn't seen her husband in like 6 months. Because he had done something over in England.
They were like,
and like they were kind of...
Rosebud,
Yeah.
that's my answer. Rosebud
Also,
is so
like,
fucking
call
funny.
just call the SNL what it is now. Pete Davidson's own personal love on the spectrum.
Make sure you subscribe to KFC Radio on YouTube to get all the video content. Subscribe, comment, like, and make sure you turn on the bell notifications so you know whenever new video content drops.
I want to say something, but the video has to be fast. That's it.